Hi, Julie here. Today we're going to look at creating some fine art black and white images using DxO Nik Collection. So I've got this image here that I took of the gorgeous summer all dressed up. And I did just a few simple tweaks, did some blemish removal and cleaned up the backdrop a little bit, and that's pretty much all I did. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to go and jump straight over into Nik Collection, and I'm going to go to Color Efex. Okay, so what I'm going to do now that I am over here in Color Efex, if you've never used Color Efex before, you've got a whole heap of filters here. And you can either go through all of them, and there's 55 of them, or you can go through the various collections. So there's contrast collection, film collection, macro, weddings, travel, or fine art, which is what I'm going to have a little look at today. So I've got my image here, I've got my before and after set. I like to have the slider so I can see where I'm going. I have my zoom just set to fit, and I've got all my tools and everything over there. So these are some of the 18 presets that are available in the fine art collection. Each one of these has a little drop down arrow, so you can go through and you can play with these. If you hover over it, it will give you a little bit of a preview, but if you click on it, it will show you the whole image. So you can play around with those, and there's some beautiful ones in there. Now, some of them are quite strong, and I'm going to go through and show you how to drop the opacity and make some changes in them. But there is some beautiful things that you can do. Now, I have gone through and I have selected some of my favorites here. You can see where the stars are. So if you just click on one, that will turn it into a favorite. To see what you've actually applied to your image is this little orange bar here. So anything that does not have an orange bar next to it has not been used. So if to apply one, all you need to do is hit the plus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to select some. So this is bleach bypass, and when I click on it, you see it turn over here. Now you can play around with different settings within the filter. So you can add a control point so it's only affecting a certain area. You can adjust the opacity so you don't have to have it full strength. Now this is what they call normal bleach bypass. I could go to a high contrast and I could bring the opacity down on it. I'm just going to click back to normal. Every time you click one of the presets, it resets this back to the default. So if you do change it, you will have to come back and make changes. So you can adjust the saturation, the brightness. If you want to turn it on and off, you can by clicking the little tick. And if you just want to minimize all of these settings, you can do that. Or if you decide you really don't want it, you can click the cross. So I'm going to go back to my black and white conversion, and I'm going to select I think I actually liked the soft red one, but I'm going to put some other things to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that one. So that has put that over here. It's actually added it twice. So the bleach bypass, I'm going to add that as well, and that has been added on top of the black and white conversion, but I don't want it that strong. So I'm going to bring it down a little bit. I'm also going to add a colorizer. What I want to do, and these are quite strong, so I really like the cyanotype look, and you can go through and you can change different looks, or you can pick a color picker and you can choose whatever color you want. You can change the strength of that color. You can get it to affect more of the shadows or more of the highlights, and of course you can change the opacity. So I'm really starting to like the look of where this image is going now. Now the next one that I want to have a look at, so I'm just going to close that, is the duplex. Now this gives that sort of dreamy glow effect to your image. You can go quite strong, you can go fairly default, but again, remember you can affect the opacity. Oops, let's go to the correct preset. You can affect the opacity, so I really don't want it quite so strong. So I've added that in, but what I don't want is the color. So I want to change that color. So I want to go more over to the cooler tones. And I don't want it that strong. So I'm going to bring it back. I just want a hint of a glow. I don't want a huge amount. So there's other things that I could add to it. There are old photo looks, Polaroid transfers, vignette filters. So I could add filters around the edge. There's square, there's adapt edges, things like that. It just depends on what look you're going for. I don't want to apply any of those. I may want to go and apply some grain. So I'm going to come up to the top here, and I'm going to, you've got a lot of different film types that you can grab. I'm looking for, okay, so I've gone back and I've made a little bit of a modification, because when I added colorize, it would knock out duplex and vice versa. And I really did prefer the colorizer over the duplex. So I've gone back into my colorizer and I'm playing around with my shadows and my highlights. I really want to drop those blacks to give it that really sort of dark, moody look. So I'm bringing that in, probably maybe strengthen up my blues a touch. I might make it a little bit darker and bring that back. So what I want to do now is come in with the grain. So if I zoom in to my image, you can see, so that's without the grain and that's with the grain. So I find with a lot of modern cameras, and of course mine is a Sony A7R5, so I mean beautiful, sharp, crisp images, but they don't give you that real film vintage look. So adding the grain into the image, and it's quite soft, it's not harsh, gives you that lovely, beautiful, soft feel to the images. I could add some image borders to it. I could add some vintage effects. I could take this over into Silver Efex Pro and work on it further, but I love where I've got it at just at the moment. I might just do a dodge and burn just to bring some of those highlights out a little bit. I could of course come back in. So what I want to do now is I want to save that as a preset, and I'm just going to call it Summer. And I've already got one called Summer, so I'm going to call it Summer Fine Art, and save with all local adjustments. Now, of course, I can convert this to a smart object. So if I click on that, once I save it, I can apply the image. It will go back into Photoshop, and then if I need to, I can double click on this and it will take me back into Nik Color Efex, so I can continue playing with it. So I'm quite happy with this. Like I said, I might just give it a little bit of a dodge and burn. So I'm just going to go through to my actions and into my light. Just give that jewelry a little bit of a sparkle. Some highlights to her hair. Now, another thing I like to do is to feather my masks. So I can be a little bit rough when I'm doing my brush, but when I feather it, it is nice and soft and even throughout my image. So I might just do a little bit of a dodge just to bring out some more of the details. And there we have the final image. So it really doesn't take much to turn something that was a great image, but turn it into something a little more classic. So creating a beautiful black and white, adding a little bit of vintage color and adding some grain into it, it can turn this into a beautiful, beautiful fine art print. Of course, if you didn't want to crush the blacks quite as much, you can come back into Nik and go back into the colorizer, and you can bring the shadows down a little bit, hit apply, and take it back into Photoshop. So thanks for watching. Bye for now.